Bishop,
Hello there.
how are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Bishop. Thank you so much for the privilege to spend a little time with you and chop it up a little bit.
Not a problem. Glad to do it.
So Bishop, this has been the craziest season of my lifetime.
Um,
What about yours?
yeah, I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. I don't think, from all that I can research, our country hasn't seen anything like it for 100 years, going back to about 1912. So this is unprecedented, and none of our infrastructures, organizations, government, medical facilities were built around a collective reasoning that would prepare us to even communicate effectively or have a strategy in place that was comprehensive enough to match the fierce ferocity of this disease and the impact of it on Americans, and particularly Black and brown people are unfortunately having the greatest impact in terms of not contractions, but in terms of deaths.
How have you and your family been doing in all of this?
When it all started, I called my family immediately and threatened them fiercely not to underestimate the impact of this. I pulled my daddy card out and told everybody to retreat into their domiciles until further notice, which they had done. And if it had gotten any worse, I was going to bring everybody home where we could shelter in place together. I'm a very protective person. We have done well. We have kept ourselves uplifted by Zooms and Skypes and FaceTime and everything possible. Some of them have come out to service when I'm speaking and stayed distancing, but still there. But it has been difficult emotionally. We're a close family, and so it's hard to have a Mother's Day and not be able to touch your mother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What have you been doing in the quarantine that you weren't able to do pre-quarantine?
Well, my first response has been I was bombarded with media requests to speak, so I'm probably busier now than I was before the quarantine. It's been insanely busy. I literally just got off the phone with a medical facility trying to get more testing into more underserved areas, of which I've been able to do, collaborating backup plans for the impact. There's so many different levels of impact on this. There's the physical impact, which comes first, the loss of lives, the medical impact in terms of having the proper medical solutions, which are beyond my pay grade. I can't do anything about that. There's the economic impact in terms of food and small businesses, which I've been working through my Facebook and my YouTube page to bring the brightest minds up to talk to our people about how to withstand the vicissitudes of this economically. Then there's the psychological impact of it, which is devastating. What we're seeing happen psychologically, the trauma from this is going to last a long time. And because I have this Superman complex, I always feel like everybody's problem is mine. And so I put on my cape and my boots and ran out there and tried to make a little bit of difference. And other than that, I'm just trying to keep myself sane, balancing how much news I watch, how many problems, divorces I counsel, families in despair with trying to have some quality time myself so that I don't go down with the ship. So it's been a lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I keep hearing this idea, and I wanted to talk to you about it because, I keep hearing it over and over again. This idea of I can't wait for things to get back to normal. And this expectation in my mind is, in many senses, this erroneous expectation that there is going to be this normal at all levels in every area and arena of our culture, as it pertains to even vocational spaces and people who have been laid off, who may be looking to go back to do the exact thing. In some instances, that might not be possible. And the idea of things getting back to normal, can you speak to that and maybe how we should be thinking or approaching this paradigm shift, as it were?
It is definitely a paradigm shift. You hit the precise word. Uh, I think that we'll get back to something better than this, but it won't be what we are used to. If you think about after 9/11, before 9/11, people would walk you to the gate to see you off when you flew a plane. That's no longer happening.
Right.
You could carry lotions and things in your bag. That's no longer happening. You didn't have to practically go through a strip search to get on a plane. That's no longer happening. The
Right.
world drastically changed as a consequence to 3,000 people dying. Now we're
Right.
almost up to 100,000, and there's no way you can lose 100,000 American lives alone. And we're approaching it, and and not be altered in some way forever. As it relates to jobs, companies everywhere are rethinking themselves because necessity is the mother of invention. And so people have had to be creative about restaurants, about grocery stores, about everything, hairdressers, everything. Everybody's rethinking how they do business. Let's back up a minute. Last year, I went to a Black Economics Summit, and the stats said that over the next 10 years, the unemployment rate would go from roughly about 7% amongst African Americans to 20% if we did not get them directed into STEM programs and STEAM programs and that sort of thing. That was alarming. This turned that into from a locomotive into a jet. It's now a jet because in just a matter of a couple of weeks, everybody had to go to technology in order to survive, communicate, connect, make deliveries, sell products, do merchandise. Uh, we have to rethink how we market ourselves, what's going to be left when this is over. Definitely delivery services, trucking companies are going to be left because they're more important now than ever before until we get automated trucking, which eventually will phase that out. But for right now, there are job opportunities there. People who are looking for jobs can also go to tdjfoundation.org, tdjfoundation.org, and there's a myriad of job opportunities that are in there on all levels. That's one of the places. John Hope Bryant there in Atlanta has a huge network for helping people to rethink and reevaluate themselves. So they could Google him and find out some information about the services that he provides. And there are people all over the country who are working feverishly on this behind the scenes, trying to come up with solutions for banking, for services, for small businesses. This, of course, the PPP and the stimulus care package was very helpful to those that got it. Many of them didn't get it because of various reasons. Some of the big companies gobbled it up, and then some of our businesses weren't set up for it. Some of our small businesses don't pay taxes, weren't eligible for it. There are a lot of reasons why the trickle down is not trickling down like we would really like for it to, but that was some help, and we're grateful to the degree that it was able to give us some sustainability. I think it's a time now that you have to back up and not look at what you used to do, but look at what your core gifts are, repackage yourself, remarket yourself, and get back out there in the areas where you're going to have the most success. And in some cases, we are qualified for jobs that don't exist in our region, and we may have to relocate into other regions where we are more marketable in those regions than we are in other places.
No, I love that. I love that. Um, because as I was thinking about this whole thing, the thing that kept coming to mind for me is the whole idea of reinvention and what it means for people to reinvent themselves. And sometimes we can get locked in frameworks and in molds and modes and 100 miles an hour going north with one expectation, never to realize when everything around us shifts, we got to shift too. and you're the master of reinvention. I've reinvented myself a few times, but
You don't do bad.
you're the king of reinvention, and I think that's a big idea in my mind that you have talked about in an amazing book you got called Reposition Yourself. That I think while it's a few books ago for you, I think it's more relevant for this time than people could ever know, because everybody's got to be looking to pivot in one way or another. And those who won't pivot, unfortunately, in my mind, have the propensity to go down instead of forward.
That's a very frightening thought, but it's a very true thought. Reposition yourself was my attempt to warn people that tomorrow won't look like today, and that you have to market yourself for where you're going, not for where you've been. Culturally, we are so stuck on what happened to us that we don't think in terms nor put enough energy into what is going to happen. We are driving a car forward with our gaze in the rearview mirror. And we are constantly talking about who left us, who hurt us, who betrayed us, who denied us. And while all of that is true, and all of that is legitimate, and all of that is painful, if you're going to survive, you have to take your eyes off the rearview mirror and start looking forward. Looking forward means this. What's going to be left when the dust settles? What jobs have been created because of this? What has been lost because of this? You know, I was told a story that when people were trying to evacuate the East Coast because flooding was coming in, all the highways were turned into one-way streets and everybody was trying to get out of the city. And there were a group of guys who were not in cars running the opposite way toward the sea where the waves were tempestuous, and they had surfboards. So the analogy says that one man's storm is another man's opportunity.
I love it. I love it.
And the challenge to people today is to find your surfboard rather than to run from the storm. You know, most of the billionaires that we have in this country became billionaires through calamities, because calamities are the mother of invention and innovation and creativity. And we don't think that way. Right now, while we are frantic and upset, there are people buying up properties at lower prices because the interest rates are down, people are in crisis, homes are being lost, people are moving from ownership to renting, people are buying up blocks of property, there's the opportunity zones. People, smart people see disaster as opportunity. And they see from a business perspective. I'm not talking about ministry or sociological or emotional or anything like that. From a business perspective, they see it as an opportunity. How can I repackage myself in a way that solves this problem? Now, this is for business people. Business people must understand that the quickest way to build a business is to find a problem that your business solves.
Yes, sir.
So anytime your business solves a problem, your marketing bills go down to nothing, because everybody's looking for an answer. And the question that everybody needs to be thinking about is what problems can I solve? How am I an answer? And how do I bring that to the forefront of my brand, my social media, my resume? Everything about me has to say the same thing. So you might have to take those sexy pictures down. You may have to reinvent your messaging because everybody's looking at that, and this is a new day, and you need to market yourself in such a way that you solve a problem, whether it's PPE, whether it's delivery to elderly people, whether it's in-home care, whether it's some other thing that this COVID-19 has created an uncertainty, a need. It has to solve a problem. Any business that does not solve a problem becomes a luxury item, and luxury items in times of crisis do not sell.
No, I love that. That's insane, Bishop. That's insane. In my mind, because I called the family meeting in our home. Everybody has been affected at all levels, and from a livelihood standpoint, on some level, everybody's been affected. And I called the family meeting to say, you know, what else do we have in our bag from a gift standpoint, from an asset standpoint that we could turn into something to be able to make up for the income that we would lose in our household between me and my wife and all of the varying things that we do with the different industries and how we've all been impacted. So I think how you just, I mean, as my granddaddy would say, Bishop, you can put them good words together.
Good, good credit. Keeping it real needs to be placed with keeping it 700 because it's not so much about cash flow, it's about having good credit. Because if you have good credit, you can get good cash flow. If you have good credit right now, it's a great time to buy property and rent it out and create multiple streams of income.
Yes, sir.
If you have good credit. If you don't have good credit, you can get good credit quicker than you think.
Yes, sir.
A lot of us don't do the work that's necessary to even go and see what is on there that could be taken off, that's old, that's wrong, that's antiquated. Those things that are, call the people, stop running from bill collectors, call them, work out terms. Right now, people are more open to working out terms that may be able to create a window of escape for you to climb out of the ark and hit a new land again by just simply calling them on the phone and say, I've been hit hard by COVID-19. I was behind before, I'm drowning now. How can I work? I really want to pay you. How can I work to get that done? And get your credit rating up as high as possible and leverage it against, you don't have to, it's not about having money. It's about having credit. You can go out and buy a building with the equity that's in a good home. You've got equity in the home. You can leverage the value of the home to get the home. You can turn around and rent the home out or sell it and flip it and get more revenue stream. You've got to be creative and you've got to be a risk taker. Yes, and that's a scary thing in a crisis, is to be a risk taker. But the art to being a risk taker is a calculated risk. This is not a wild leap of faith into the abyss of uncertainty. This is a careful, calculated, researched opportunities that exist out there. They're going on right now. While we're talking right now, everybody's not talking like us, like black people talk. Black people are talking about, oh Lord, when we going back to church? I miss singing in the choir. They sang my song and they used somebody else. And oh Lord, what's going on? We don't have no groceries. We need extra groceries and all that kind of stuff. And I have to cook again. I can't eat out at the restaurants and all. We're talking about all that kind of stuff. I want to see cousin Nookie, and Nookie hadn't been over my house in a long time. While we're having those kinds of conversations, other people are forming limited liability partnerships. They're putting their resources together. They're collectively buying properties and splitting the rents for profits. They're buying neighborhoods and communities and opportunity zones for tax havens. They're doing really, really smart things. We are normally not in the room where those conversations are had. And it's not that we don't want to have them. We don't know how to have them because we've never been in the room. And what I've dedicated myself to do, Charles, of late, is to interview a lot of very smart people and put them on my YouTube channel so that our people can be exposed to conversations and how people think who survived the Depression, who survived the Civil Rights Movement, who survived those turbulent times, and what techniques do we need to be thinking now. I just did an interview with one of your homegirls, Melody Hobson. And I did an interview with her, a very, very smart interview that's coming out very soon. I've talked to senators, I've talked to entertainers, I've talked to some of everybody as they rethink their industries and try to find viable ways to stay afloat and hopefully to close that hemorrhaging gap economically, because we've got a lot of sociological problems, we've got a lot of spiritual problems, but 80% of our problems can be traced back to lack of income.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the things that people come up to you and ask for prayer for that they call a miracle is not a miracle, it's a money problem. A car is not a miracle. We don't need God to get a car. We don't need God to get a house. We don't need God to send our kids to summer school. I believe in God to send my kids to summer school. No, you believe God to grow a leg. You believe God to let you walk on water. You believe God to part the Red Seas. You strategize economically to solve the goals that we have in front of us. I tell people that God doesn't make tables, he only makes trees.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're praying for a table, don't talk to God because he was finished when he made the tree.
Wow.
Once he makes a tree, it's up for you to turn it into a table.
Wow.
God's not going to come down there and chop down the tree and sand it and do all of that part. We're drunk on faith.
Mm-hmm.
We're so drunk on it that we misunderstand what faith really means and what it's
Just
supposed
the
to
work
be.
side.
Yeah, and we're believing God for, you don't believe God for a bath.
Mm-hmm.
You just take a bath, you know. You don't have to go into a shut-in and anoint yourself with oil and just pray that the angels will come down there and bathe. No, you just bathe. So there are certain things that we don't know the appropriate actions to take to have the greatest impact. And I say we because I have been in that number too. Over the years, I've been blessed to be in the most amazing rooms. And I feel like part of my calling is to bring other people into that room. And social media and doing things like this creates a space for people to hear another conversation. And for you to ask me to do this interview is in some ways gratifying because you get to hear somebody other than the guy who preaches.
Mm-hmm.
This part of the brain preaches. This part of the brain thinks. And it's a difference between hearing somebody preach and hearing somebody think. It's what I like about writing, because when I get to write what I think without the encumbrance of our religious traditions and our congregational expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I can just put raw brain to pen. And these types of interviews create the atmosphere for us to have those kinds of conversations. Everybody's not struggling. Everybody's not drowning. Everybody's not underwater. There's still a lot of success out here. 70% of businesses are still doing well. It's just that the 30 that's underwater are the 30 we work for and work with and work in. We got to get out of that 30. That 30 is dying. It's not coming back. We got to infiltrate the other arenas. You don't necessarily have to go back to college to take courses online for coding and get in entry-level positions as technicians, because the world has taken a quantum leap that nobody could predict into the abyss of technology, because technology showed us that we can still have the meeting, that we can work from home and we can still get it done. Companies are rethinking, do I need the building? Do I need the workforce? Churches are rethinking themselves. Churches who were prepared for this survived this. Churches that were not prepared for this, there's going to be some casualties because it's hard to recreate yourself in 60 days. You have to lay the groundwork and do the infrastructure and build a networking and understand it and learn it and get around people who are doing it. And unfortunately, we have an aversion for successful people, not an attraction. Most people are attracted to successful people. We have an aversion for them. We feel like they're Uncle Toms and they're in the big house and we're out in the cabins. What we should have is get close around them and learn what they know and listen at what they said so we can emulate it and teach our children. We have survived for thousands of years sitting around the fires in Africa, teaching our children who they are. And we've lost that propensity to be every great teacher only became a great teacher because they were a ravenous student. And if you are a ravenous student, you will end up a great teacher.
Wow. Wow. No, you just swung on me. I just gotta say the
Well, you asked me.
I need some smelling salts. Come get me up. What I hear you saying, and I hear you saying so much, and I want to go back and listen to this 4, 5 more times myself, but I'm hearing a myriad of things. I'm hearing the same place where doors are closed or closing, there are wide open doors.
Absolutely.
If we're only standing in front of the closed doors, never to look or even pray to be guided to the open doors, we stayed locked out and never enter into a new opportunity that's very possibly ours.
Let's not leave it at prayer.
Okay.
Prayer is not enough to get you there. Every silo and circle and sociological construct has barriers.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's hard to get into that circle. And when you get there, there's a discomfort because you don't feel like you belong. You don't know the language. You don't know how to dress right. Your wardrobe isn't prepared for it. Your vernacular is not prepared for it. Your temperament, your language is not prepared for it. Your political view is not prepared for it, because some of the people who have the greatest influence think very different politically than you do. And so there has to be a reorientation if you're going to reposition yourself. You talked about my book, Reposition Yourself. You have to reorientate yourself to that environment. And everybody needs two things, mentoring and modeling. Okay. Okay. So to the person who's watching this video, they say, I know there's other rooms. I can't get in the room. I can't get in the room. Nobody invites me to anything like that. I don't know anybody that gets me to serve somebody who's in the room. Drive somebody who's in the room. Pack somebody who's in the room. Clean the house for somebody who's in the room. I don't care how you get in the room. Get in the room. Get in the room. Catch the crumbs that fall from the table, in the car, on the phone, serving food to them, picking up concepts. Ask questions. Don't get in the room and try to show how smart you are. It's okay not to know. So you get in there and you try to fake like you're one of them, and everybody can readily detect a fraud. Yeah, they know you're a fraud. You use the wrong word. You use the wrong term. you know, it's not a 501k. You know, you blew the whole thing up. You know, you don't file a 1090. It's a 990. You know, a 1099 is different from a 990. You don't have the language.
Right.
So get in the room by serving in the room, volunteering in the room, folding letters in the room, doing whatever you can do, sending boxes of mails in the room, whatever you can do to get in the room. And when you get home, start learning the terms. Get a glossary of the terms and learn the terms so you can speak the language. We are getting ready to move. Moses, I feel like a Moses talking to the children of Israel. We are moving. Pack your bags. The death angel, the plague has come. The death angel has killed the firstborn. All of Egypt is screaming in horror. You must pack to move. Where you're going does not look like where you've been. You've got to cross the desert. We are headed for the promised land. If you had to move quickly, what would you take and what would you leave? Who would you take and who would you leave? These immediate emergency decisions have to be made quickly because the plagues have come and the move is on, and all that do not move will be destroyed.
Wow. 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 Bishop, to tie into what you said earlier, and you just throwing hand grenades as we go along, and they're blowing us all up. You were talking about part of what I was getting ready to mention, and that is the homework of it all.
Yes.
And
yes.
and you broke it down, because I think sometimes we think we can just jump into an opportunity and don't embrace the preparation that it takes for the destination, as it were. And just listening to you as I work through the concepts, constructs, and ideas, what you just said a second ago, I mean, Moses talking to the children of Israel, you know, with love, honor, and respect, practically, but also, Bishop, prophetically.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of, hey, everybody, it's time to pack up and move, and what that means for the church,
Mm-hmm.
what that means vocationally, what that means for your family, what that means for your work life, what that means emotionally, psychologically, how you function from a consistent standpoint previously. I think everybody needs to pack.
Yes, yes. I mean, it comes down to the smallest thing. From a psychological perspective, whenever you're closed in and you're quarantined and you're home and you're worried and you're threatened, there is a propensity to want what we call comfort foods. Comfort foods is the soul's cry for normalcy. So if you grew up eating Cheerios and now you're shut up in the house, all of a sudden you're craving Cheerios. The
Right.
reason you're craving Cheerios is because they remind you of a better time. The hardest thing has been for me being shut up in the house is to stay away from the Cheerios, because the Cheerios are the things that my soul cries out for, that makes me feel safe, because it reminds me of being at home and my mother and my grandmother and all that kind of stuff. Not only does it make me a very, 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 very large person, but it is also a look in a rear view mirror that I will never have again. Instead, I need to be transforming for the future, figuring out what I'm going to wear, what I'm going to look like, jumping on the treadmill, working out in the gym, been lifting weights, pulling myself together because I'm getting ready for what's in front of me rather than putting all my energy into what's behind me. Been reading ferociously, taking copious notes, reading all of the news headlines that we skip over, looking for the things that we're most interested in. Now, I brought up something a minute ago. I want to close it down. Mentoring and modeling. They're two different things. And mentoring is important. It's very important. And some of your greatest mentors you never have to meet. If you read them, you can be mentored through books. You can be mentored by them. You can be mentored by them. Mentoring is important, but modeling, I believe, is even stronger, because even though you can have a great mentor, if you have a bad model, you won't be successful. Let's take churches, for example. You can have a great mentor and become a phenomenal preacher, but if you have a bad model, the business side of the church is helter-skelter. You can preach the paint off the wall, but you don't know how to fill out the forms to get a PPP. You don't know how to set up the construct. You didn't keep good books. You don't have good records. You don't have the infrastructure, because that wasn't the model when you came along. The model, the church didn't have any employees. The pastor came in and preached on Sunday, and they ate chicken at somebody's house Sunday night, and it was over. Mahalia Jackson fans, Dr. King fans stomping on the floor, having church. That's good. That's your model. Your model may be your misery. You have to find an effective model. When I was teaching my daughter the elementary aspects of preaching, I told her, I said, on your way over to the house, pick up a puzzle. She said, what kind of puzzle? I said, your fifth grade puzzle, any kind of little puzzle. So she brought a little kid's puzzle, brought it home. I said, look at this puzzle. She said, Daddy, I came over here to learn about preaching. Why are you showing me a puzzle? I said, everything you need to know about preaching is in this puzzle. She said, I don't see anything but a puzzle. I said, the principles of the puzzle is the principles of preaching. I said, why do you think they put the picture on the front of the box? She said, to show you what it's supposed to look like when you put it together. That's what a model does. It shows you what it's supposed to look like when you put it together. In the box, you have all the pieces. But if you don't have the model, you'll never be able to put the pieces together, because you don't know what it's supposed to look like. Wow. You understand? So you start with the text. Everybody's got the same book. Everybody's got the same Bible. But how you put those pieces together determines what the picture looks like when the message is done. As that is in preaching, that is also true in life. The model your parents set for you, the model your grandparents set for you, the model your environment, your community sets for you. It's hard to be mentored past your model. You need to see another model. You need to go someplace where you're out of your element and see the model and understand the model and understand what it looks like, because you cannot build what you cannot see.
Yeah.
That's why we have architects, so that carpenters will have a model. The architect literally builds the building on paper, and then the builders come along and build according to the specs. We don't have architects. No architect to get out of debt, no architect for marriage, no architect for community. The reason we haven't been able to defeat COVID-19 is that we had no medical architectural design that required for hospitals to work together. Hospitals became businesses. We see them as hospitals. The people who run them see them as businesses. Right. So they have franchises, just like McDonald's. And all of the franchises have intercommunications within that hospital, but they did not have the ability to communicate with other hospitals. So when the disease started hitting beyond the scope of their franchise, there was no ability to assess what was happening in the city because there was no model for connectivity. That's what happened in Katrina. There was no model for federal government, state government, local government to work together in a concerted effort. Wherever there is no model, people will drown, people will die, people will lose for the lack of a model. We are stuck in some of the situations that we're in, my friend, because we do not have a model. And when we get a chance to go to those that have a model, we don't go because the model doesn't appeal to you because it's not Cheerios.
Wow. Wow.
It's not
so
Cheerios.
Mentoring, go ahead, Bishop.
No, I'm just saying it's not Cheerios. You have to develop an appetite for it. There's a discomfort. You have to be willing to walk in the rooms where you feel out of place and where you're careful what you say and where you feel. I'm only happy when I'm in a room where I feel stupid.
Wow.
I love to be in rooms where I have to think carefully before I respond to anything because I don't want to sound like a fool, because those are expansion rooms. Those are rooms where you grow in. Rooms that you come in and you're the smartest person in the room are the rooms you have outgrown. You want to be in a room where you feel like a fool because that puts you in a room where you have space to grow.
Wow. Wow. All of that, Bishop, all of that. You see me all laying on the floor, they trying to get me back up. So Bishop, I want to ask you this, and I'm gonna turn you loose. Social media, because as we talk about a myriad of things, and at the core of it, reinvention, retooling, rethinking, reconsidering, and all of those kinds of things. What is your frame of thinking around how you approach social media, and if you were counseling me on location, like how should people be as we think of the broader picture of reinvention and repositioning yourself and all of those kinds of things?
Social media is a tool. The technology is a tool. You can either swipe left and get a date. You can Google up porn. It depends on whose hands you put it in, what it becomes. It's nebulous, okay? You can either show me how fine you are or how smart you are. You can build a brand for yourself that you will attract whatever bait you put out there. If you put body bait out there, you will attract seekers. If you put brain food out there, you will attract intellectuals. If you put scriptures out there, you will attract church people. Whatever you put out there, if I bake a cake, I bake some, and if I bake a cake and I put it out there, I will attract every chef, every caterer, everybody who does anything will come on my page and look. I've had caterers tell me how hot they got, that I got so frustrated that I got so many hits for a cake they baked, and they're running a catering company and they can't get the hits that I get. But what you put, if I take a picture with my dogs and put it on Instagram, all the dog and hashtag dog lovers, all the dog lovers all over the world will connect with me. What an amazing tool. Being a baby boomer, I didn't grow up with those kinds of tools. I had to build my church frying chicken with one hand and preaching funerals with the other one and working a part-time job. Oh my God, if I would have had this. Oh, I want a chance to do it over. Please let me do it over. Let me have another turn. It wasn't fair, wasn't fair, wasn't fair. I had a little radio station on, a little radio program on in a little small city called the Masters Play, and it reached about 2,000 people, and I was working it for blood. But that's all I had. You can pick up your phone and talk and speak, and they can hear you in South Africa. You have no excuse not to be successful, but you're not putting out the right kind of bait. You're not marketing who you are and what you have and how you solve problems and how you fix things. You're appealing to people on a very base, carnal level. And you don't have to worry about that because that's going to always come anyway. So you never have to bait for that, for what you already are. I can see that. So giving me more of that only cheapens that. Give me, what else do you have? What else can you do? What do you think? What are you building? What are you reading? What are you working on? What quote leaped out at you? What did you think about it? Get other people to chime in on it. Start feeding where you want to go rather than reinforcing where you've already been. If you are willing to lose the fraternity of your history, then you can embrace the membership of your destiny. Now, that's a quick statement, but that's a hard thing to do because we are very afraid to lose the fraternity of our history. It's familiar, it's safe, we know the rules, it's got a level playing floor, and wherever we know the rules and the floor is level, we win. Basketball, football, tennis, golfing, anywhere we know the rules and we got a level playing floor and we understand the game, we can play. Anywhere we don't understand the rules, we don't play and we don't win. Technology, science, engineering, anywhere we don't understand the rules, we shy away from that. You know, we don't go kayaking because we didn't grow up kayaking. Those are rich people's games. We didn't play rich people's games because we didn't have the money and we don't know the rules. So we can't play the game. So that you don't see many. I went to a meeting with some Goldman Sachs people and I told them they were making jobs for minorities and trying to create inclusion and all of that. And I said to them, all of that's wonderful and that's good and it's valued and it's a great thing to do. The only problem is I have never met a little black child in an inner city neighborhood and I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he says, I want to work for Goldman Sachs. So you're creating space where there is no appetite. You have to go back and show our children what it looks like to work for Goldman Sachs. Show them people who look like them who work for Goldman Sachs or who work for Morgan Stanley or who work for Xerox. Because everything they got to see, oh, I got cold chills. Everything our kids got to see, they became. They're smart. They can learn hip hop at 2 years old. They know all the words to all the songs and who sang them and who they was going with and who they broke up with and where they live. We are not dumb. We're underexposed. If we expose our children to more, excuse me, I get excited about stuff like that. But my mother was a teacher, so I grew up in the house with somebody who was very passionate about children. If we expose our children to more, they'll dream bigger, they'll leap higher. Everything we showed them, basketball, football, hip hop, preaching, church, whatever we showed them, they learned it, they did it. They're singing, they're gospel artists, they're running around in the bathroom, singing songs, recording, laying down tracks. They became what we showed them. It's not their fault that we didn't show them anymore.
No, I love it. During this quarantine, you know, like any kids, our kids have just, you know, they've got schoolwork, they've been wanting to play and do TikToks, but we've been intentional about exposing them to business models and what successful businesses look like. And they are looking at how to build their own businesses. They have their own ideas and tons of other little things like that. I think, as you described so profoundly, we can only be what we see.
Right.
And wow. Well,
They're gonna do whatever they saw you do.
mm-hmm.
Because you are gonna be the model. You and your wife are gonna be the model that sets the stage for what they're gonna be. And if you want to strengthen their business acumen, give them $50 and tell them if you turn it into $100, we're going to Disney World.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here's $50. I want you to come up with a business plan to turn it into $100. And if you're successful, we're going to take a vacation and go wherever it is you go once all this is over. Okay? And then let them come up with a business plan, build a strategy, teach them how to buy things at the lowest price possible, sell it for fair market value, and get the increase of it. Set up a site, do something with it. Give them something to do that's gonna help them in life. In life. Then take the $100 and put it in the stock market and ask them, how is your stock today?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How is your stock today? Do you need to reinvest it? If you reinvest it over here, what is it going to do? What is a bull? What is a bear market? What is a bull market? It's $100. I don't care. It's just $100. Daddy, it's down to $52. My stock value went down. When you got an 8-year-old talking about stock value going down, you're looking at somebody who's going to be the president of a bank.
Right. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I'm inspired and I'm encouraged because we over here trying to make some sense on my street, and so we whiteboarding and bringing them into the money conversations that I get it. Kids stay in the kids' place, but as you described, there are others that bring their kids in, and when they bring them in the room, they bring their kids up.
I am who I am because my parents brought me in the room. I didn't like being in the room. I was bored being in the room. They were paying taxes. They were sitting with this woman named Miss Rutherford down in Institute, West Virginia, and they were going through whether to file jointly or whether to file separately or whether to pay quarterly or whether to pay annually. And I was bored and it was hot. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I didn't know that subliminally it was going through the pores of my skin, how to organize, how to structure, how to do business, bring them in the room. One final thing I'll share with you.
Yes, sir.
We go. When my mother first got sick, her face twisted, and it actually turned out to be Bell palsy, but we thought it was a stroke. They did brain scans and they found out that she had a tumor in her brain and some leakage there. They had to put a shunt in her brain. When they put a shunt in her brain, things got worse. She started developing Alzheimer's. The doctors asked her, who do you want to make decisions for you should something happen that you're incapacitated and you're unable to think for yourself? And my mother reached past my brother and sister and pointed at me. And she said, whatever he tells you to do that. At that moment, my entire life changed. Because up until the end, I thought I was raising my children to think for themselves. And that was an arduous task alone. But in that moment, I realized, no, I'm raising my children to think for me. That scared me to death. I thought, oh my God, that's a whole different level. One day, I am only going to live off of the fruit of their intelligence. So when you raise children, it's wonderful to teach them to think for themselves. That's great. But the reality is, as you wax older and older, one day it's them they're going to meet with to talk about where to put daddy, where do we put mama, whether we should do this treatment or not. Should we take them off of life support? Should we leave them on life support? How are we going to handle their properties, their holdings? You are raising them to think for you. That changed my whole strategy for how I raise them. It raised the bar on what I expect from you in the level of your intelligence. And intelligence begins by learning what to ask. It is not about what you know. It is not. You don't come to a book with knowledge. You come to a book as a fool. Because if you come to the book as a fool, you'll leave as a professor. So you want to teach them, what do you ask about business? What do you ask in a medical decision? What does it matter? Do we have insurance on this? Are we insured for that? How much are we insured for? Teaching them what to ask. Because one day when you can't talk, your children are going to be your mouth, and their mind is going to be your thoughts. And as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Thank you very much.
Woo! Bishop, I can't say thank you enough. Thank you for being so much for me and my family. I cannot describe it. You are a superhero and a gift, and to hundreds of millions of people. And thank you so much for sharing your heart.
It's a pleasure. I enjoyed it. Thank you for what you do and for what you're doing and what you continue to do, and for what your generation is doing. It is your hour. We are in the grandstands to watch you play. If we have not made moves by now, then all hope is gone for us. It is your hour to make the moves that make and validate the fights we fought to get where we are. It's you. It's your generation. It's your era. It's your turn. My children are grown. It's you in the center of the court. I'm over in the corner. You're in the ring. I'll give you some water. I got the towel in my hand. But you and your generation, man and woman, are in the ring. When the bell rings, come out swinging. Are you comfortable with talking about your faith at all?
I have so many church stories. I was one of those kids who had to go to church for the entire day on Sunday.
How bad is it, and what should we be doing about it economically?
Everything has been accelerated. The worst thing we could possibly do is to sit and reminisce about the good old days. They're gone.
To young girls who are aspiring to do something amazing with their life, what would you say to them?
Your confidence will only be strengthened by your knowledge.
I got the debt, I got the degree, I'm sleeping on my mother's couch, I can't find a job. What do they need to do?